I've got a lot of notes. This is what happens when I miss a couple weeks. So I'm going to go back to the start of my notes, even though it's been a while since then for you guys. Um, the 680 videos is crazy until you said you were procrastinating NaNoWriMo. And I feel like I've done things like that when procrastinating, so I get it. All of a sudden, it makes perfect sense. Um, Especially procrastinating NaNoWriMo. Like, I love it, but also it is the death of me some years. And you said in theory the math works out to averaging 3.5 hours a day, and I would also say that in July 2021, when I watched all of Marvel movies and the Disney Plus TV shows, I probably averaged about that or more. So suddenly it makes a lot more sense in that sense too. It just sounds really crazy because they're 4 minute increments, but like the timing isn't as chaotic as it sounds. Especially like if you do like 6 hours one day, then you can average a little bit less the entire rest of the week. So it makes sense. Um, you mentioned maple bars. I know about maple bars because my friend from Seattle would always talk about them. So when I moved to California, he was like, "You can finally try a maple bar," because I had never tried one, and it was really fun, and I liked it, and I should go and get one tomorrow because I like them, and I have had maybe like two or three of them in my life, so it's not something I have regularly. Um, I don't. Have we talked about Wordle? I can't. Oh yeah, I talked about Wordle because I said someone had spoiled it for me, um, which was annoying. That person hated Wordle. They were not a fan sharing it by accident. They were intentionally being a jerk. So that's not great. Um, you mentioned that it's. I think what this note means is you mentioned that it's low stakes because it's like once a day and it's only like you get 6 tries, do one word, and then you're done for the day. Um, it's sort of low stakes, sort of not, because I missed one day and I've gotten it right every other day. I've done it for like 35 or 40 days or whatever. And missing it that one time means my record is not perfect. My record is 98% right now. That's what it says. Um, and that is very upsetting to me because I would like it to be 100% and it's never going to be 100%. And like, I can hope for 99% in 50 tries or something, but I can't hope for 100, and I'm upset about that. Um, the actual low stakes game that I like is Candy Crush, which everyone else stopped playing like 5 years ago, but I just keep playing. My mom plays every single day. Um, I mostly remember to play when I talk to her or when I travel, or sometimes like after I travel, I'll remember for a few weeks in a row. But I definitely associate it with playing on airplanes, so like that association works for me. And I like to think I'm pretty good at it, but because there's no streak, it doesn't matter if I lose, so it's cool. It works. We were talking about tea. I keep my tea in a Tupperware container, but I highly doubt it's airtight, so that might be why it's losing some of its flavor. Um, I don't know why. I don't know what this is responding to, but it says here that for the last 2 years I've read more fan fiction than actual books because it's been a lot of fan fiction, and that is so 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 true. Like I've read a bunch of books. Don't get me wrong, like a whole bunch of books, but like I read fan fiction almost every single day. First it was The Untamed, then it was Marvel, also a few other things in there, um, and it's brought me great joy, great joy. It's funny to think back to like I had a whole era of not reading fan fiction. Like I did a long time ago. Um and then I had a gap where I didn't at all. I definitely never wrote anything, and I if I read something it was like once in a blue moon because someone sent me something, but now it's like I read it all the time. In fact, I send it to my Kindle so that I can read it and it's easier on my eyes and I can read for longer. Because like if I'm reading something that's 3,000 words long, I can just read on AO3, but if I'm reading like a 100,000 word epic, I want it to be easier on my eyes, and then it counts for my Kindle stats to say I read that day. um, you were talking about for P4A, the advisory board to vet charities, and that sounds like a great idea to me because I'm sure people submit a lot of things where it's like, who knows? But vetting them, that's perfect. I can't believe it's year 12. Actually, I can because I feel like I've known you guys my entire life. Um, so as weird as it is, like, how has it been 12 years? It's also like, how has it not been 30? Like, there's a part of me that's like, no, this has just been like every minute of my adult life, this channel has existed. And whether or not I was super active or not, like, it's always been a part of my life. So thinking back to like when the channel didn't exist for me is thinking back to childhood or teenage years. So, like, as an adult, it's been this. And I feel like I've been an adult for a long time. So it makes sense to me that, like, yeah, this dates predates me turning into an actual adult because it started when I was a sophomore in college. Um, so it feels right to me that it's 12 years because, like, you know, I don't want to think of myself as close to being a child or a teenager. Like, I feel I went from a young adult who was resisting being matured to being perpetually 30, like a long time ago, not recently. Um, and now I'm like perpetually 35. I don't know. Like I'm not young anymore. And so I don't want to be associated with youth. I want to be associated with my um happy adult era. And this channel is a part of that. Um I think a weekend chat definitely makes the most sense. I would really like it to happen, um, ideally with all four of us, because I think that sounds really fun. I've loved it when we've done it before, and I might not do anything next weekend, so maybe we should just do it then, because it seems like it's easier for everyone else. Um, so I could prioritize this instead, potentially. I really like. I don't get a lot of vacation days, so I try to use them when I get them. But it's like I don't know what I would do otherwise. Um, Nella, good to see you, and I'm sorry you were sick. Um, I don't understand what this note means. I have no idea. I have literally no idea. Job hunting is so stressful and emotionally draining and just like exhausting beyond belief physically and mentally. So I'm so sorry you are having to deal with that. I hate that feeling, and I bet it's like completely not fun. I think it's really cool that you're going back to ballet class, and I bet it'll all come back to you. I know it, like, at first it's going to be the learning curve of getting back used to it, but I would imagine the muscle memory is still there, and so it's going to come back pretty quickly. Um, which I'm excited to hear more and let us know how that goes because I think it might be like really interesting to see what does come back and what doesn't because obviously memory is not perfect, but I would assume a lot of it would. And also, a lot of it is like the basics of the motions make sense, like the grace and the way you hold yourself, even if you don't remember the exact muscle memory for a specific turn or something. Like the basics, I would think are still there. But yeah, you have to tell us because I have no idea. I am completely dances foreign to me. However, Kate mentioned that she went to ballet school, which sounds formal but wasn't. I went to a dance academy, which also sounds formal but wasn't. Um, I did it for a long time, like all of elementary school or something, and I was very bad at it, but I did it because it was the after school activity of the day. Um, at various times I did ballet, tap, and jazz, and I was never good at any of them, but I had fun. And then like all of my not all of my siblings, both of my sisters did it. So part of it was just like I go to my dance class and my sister goes to her dance class, and then we all go and see each other in recitals, and it was just like the thing to do, and it was really fun. And because it was a dance academy, it sounds really like fancy and awesome, but it was just like the place down the street. Um, and like our community, it was a small town. It's not a small town like I live now, but like medium sized town perhaps. Um, so like I knew a lot of the people there. So part of the reason we would go is like our friends were in the class, or like my sister, one of her closest friends was in her class. So it was just like it made perfect sense that you go to be in the same class, you do your social thing, and then the hour after that is when your sister has her class, etc., etc. Um, small town life, medium sized town life. Yeah, no, I shouldn't call it a small town because compared to Sonoma or probably most of the other places, or at least Kate has lived. I don't know about Oliver and Nella, but it's where I grew up is not a small town, not really. It's very suburban, but it's kind of a dense suburban. Um, I too have scars on my knees from childhood. I have several. They're not from like skinned, but they're just from like running into stuff too fast, falling and not being particularly careful, getting out of a car and I think I've explained this story before. I got out of a car wearing jeans and just like wasn't careful and my knee hit on an exposed metal thing in the car and it went through the jeans and slit my knee like this. Um yeah. I have I can't remember if we talked about this like 2 weeks ago or not. I have no idea. I have a thing on my kneecap which, like, if your knee, oh, I wish I had a second hand. If your kneecap is like this, it should be like a round circle, like this, right? But my kneecap kind of does this, and it has a divot, and then it goes like that. And you poke your finger in the little divot area, you can feel what feels like a little fragment of bone or something floating around, which is really interesting. And when I was a teenager, I would fiddle with it constantly. I'd just go like this and like move the little bit around. And I really think it's a piece of my kneecap that came off when I was a baby or something. But it's like not attached. And so for when I was like 15, whenever I was just like bored, I would just fiddle with it. And I forgot it was there for 15 years until I banged my knee the other day and happened to feel it. And I was like, oh, hey, that's still a thing. And now I can't stop fiddling with it. I would like to forget again for 15 years because it's irritating just like that I can't stop. Speaking of which, another thing has come back into my life. The game, which I really wish would just disappear forever. When I was a teenager, I would lose the game all the time. I'm so sorry. I know this is like triggering for millennials in a terrible way. I learned about it at summer camp when I was maybe in middle school. And then proceeded to tell everyone in middle school or high school, I guess, college, all about it. And we would play constantly, and it was hilarious at the time. And then on and off in my adulthood, I've forgotten about it and remembered it. And I've spent significant periods of time trying to forget about it, but that's really hard with games like this. This game, I mean. And in certain eras, it's like I'm with people who lose the game, so it's easier. It's harder to forget about it at that time. And like I've been in Sonoma where no one around me loses the game, and nobody on the internet does who I talk to, or with me in the moment. So I had forgotten for a while, and then I remembered recently, and it's my least favorite thing. It really is. It's the worst. Which is hilarious because like when I was growing up, it was the funniest thing ever. Like my brother's Xbox handle was PlayStation Xbox was IJLTG. Like his username was I just lost the game, and it was just constant. Like in our house, in my friend groups, all of it. Anyway, I shouldn't have told that story because I know it's like ridiculous to talk about. And I don't mean that even as like a 30-year-old. I mean, if you're interacting with people who probably don't actively want to be playing, you probably shouldn't mention it. Back to the responses that I was supposed to be making when I got distracted. Kate, it's interesting you were unfamiliar with ballet because you haven't seen it, because that hadn't occurred to me, but of course you wouldn't be familiar if you hadn't been specifically exposed to it. I really like the marionette analogy for difficulty moving and controlling body parts. Like, I thought that was very evocative imagery. It was excellent. The point story is so, like I can feel that moment of what you're feeling, because it's like, dude, saying the same word over and over again, even if you're changing emphasis, does not make it any clearer what you're trying to say. Like, use your words. And you're 5 or whatever, so obviously you don't have the processing power to say that, probably. But he was not being a good adult or not a good communicator, and I'm sorry he didn't explain it to you, because he should have. Okay, so next thing I want to say was Wordle, as we've talked about, is a game where you get 6 tries to guess a 5-letter word, and you can do it once a day. I play that every single day. I also play Airportal, which is you have 6 guesses to guess a 3-letter airport code, which in my experience is much harder, both because I don't know every airport code in the world. I would guess 2/3 of them are U.S. airports, but then 1/3 aren't, and I don't know all of the outside of the U.S. airports. I've gotten all of the U.S. ones. I haven't gotten all of the internationals. I've just gotten some. So that's kind of hard, but I really enjoy it because I like thinking about travel and I like thinking about airports. And I also have started playing Nerdle, but I'm only like 3 or 4 days into that, which is a math version of Wordle. It's 8 spaces, and it has to be a valid math problem. So it could be like, in theory, 12 times 2 minus 5 equals 19 or something. And it would tell you like there is a plus, there is an equal, but it's in the wrong spot. There is a 2, but it's in the wrong spot, etc. And you have to use those hints to create a new math problem. And you can only guess things that are valid math problems. It's super fun. I love it. So that's cool. So The last thing I want to talk about, and I meant to be shorter than this, but oh well. Um, I quit my group chat. I've been in that group chat for 4 or 5 years, and it goes off 300 to 400 times a day. And I wasn't active in every single conversation, but I was very active in our subgroup for Marvel, and we've had various subgroups at other times that I've been active in. And like Miss Misandry for hating men. Like, we have all kinds of subgroups. And I finally got to the point where I was like, it is no longer healthy for me to be in this group. They're not actively rude to me, but like, I feel like it's wearing on my mental health just being a part of it. And I realized after quitting, after bawling my eyes out, I realized that I've been using it as a crutch. And part of the reason I haven't really made friends in California is because I've just been talking to people online and by phone all the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to talk to my closest friends on the phone and online, and my family, of course. But like, I need to make in-person friends. I think that'll be healthy for me. So last weekend, I went to a board game club meetup. Um, Last weekend, I also went to San Diego, which was exhausting. I shouldn't have done it. I did it in one day. Like, I flew in the morning and flew out at night. Very exhausting. Worth it because I got to see two of my siblings and my brother's girlfriend. So I'm glad I did it. But I really just wish I had done 2 days instead of one day. It's fine. I like the adventures, and I like that I now have a story of going down and back. Because I did LA down and back once, and now I've done San Diego. Anyways, the next day I did a board game club where I met up with a few strangers and we played games, and it was fun. Though I didn't last all that long and had to leave early. And then I joined Bumble BFF, which is an app for making friends. And today I went on a coffee date where we got coffee, we sat outdoors and drank it, and then we went for a walk in a park and a walk around Petaluma, which is just like this cute town. And so like we went into like a bookstore and looked at all their used books. And the reason that I matched with this woman, I always say girl to talk about a 30-year-old, but really the word is woman, is I saw on her profile that one of her prompts was the thing I quote the most from or something like that. And she put John and Hank Green. And I was like, oh my God, what? And so we ended up talking about that. And it was like, oh my God, we have this interesting connection. And her story is completely different than mine. She got into them way later than I did. And like, she has followed them on different media than I have, because like, I didn't even know they had a podcast until she talked about it. So it was super fun to bond with her over that. And I was like, hey, I need to listen to that podcast and also read their recent books because I haven't read them. So that's a new goal. It was really fun to hang out with her. It's like I don't get to hang out with new friends very often. Sometimes I'll meet up with older friends or family in other cities, but like I need to make new friends. So I'm really glad I'm doing that. And of course, I'm really glad I'm going to Portland and Eugene, Oregon. Very exciting. I feel like I've had that plan on the back burner for a very, very long time, since like legitimately pre-pandemic. So I'm really glad it's actually happening now. Okay, this is literally an over 18-minute video. That wasn't supposed to happen. Don't forget to be awesome, and I hope we get to have a video chat soon. Bye!